Is astrology a guide to aid us in mastering the universe? This is the Cosmic Community Podcast with Galactic Ambassador Stacey Dredd. This astrology report is for the week of December 9th, and we are finishing up the last phase of the Mercury retrograde. I'm going to see Mercury moving out of Scorpio into Sagittarius for the last leg of that this week. Also, Neptune, the planet Neptune, stationing direct, which means that we are feeling Neptune and Neptunian themes very strongly. We have Venus T-squaring the nodes of fate. This is a very fateful week. Mercury moving into Sagittarius, as I mentioned, going to be shifting the energies of mercurial things. Also, Mars in a square to Neptune this week, and the Sun making an aspect to Chiron and to Jupiter. So a lot going on with the personal planets. That is Mercury, Venus, and Mars, and the Sun. And the rest of the planets are all pretty much in retrograde besides Pluto. Pluto has finally made it to 2 degrees of Aquarius. And so this is kind of a fresh zone. Pluto did a retrograde and is now going to be moving into some fresher territory in Aquarius. So look for the first few degrees for highly transformative areas there. But other than that, the other outer planets, Saturn, just stationed direct and is just sitting very still in the sky. Neptune doing the same. And Chiron is in retrograde, Uranus and Jupiter. So a lot of the other planets sitting very, very still, but the personal planets making a lot of aspects this week, which means that while the rest of the world, the outer planets, sort of represent the world on a grander scale in society, the rest of the world seems to be standing still. There's a lot of action in our personal lives this week. And so on Tuesday, December 9th, we have a lot of lunar activity. There's no planetary aspects this day, but the moon is moving through Leo. So we begin the week with a very fiery mood, and the moon is finishing up its last leg of Leo here in the evening of December 9th and making a square to both Mercury and Uranus. And Mercury and Uranus are in an opposition to each other, and that's going to be a perfect opposition on December 10th. But when the moon comes through this T-square later in the evening on Tuesday, December 9th, it is very much going to spark something in terms of what we are feeling and the mood around this opposition between Mercury and Uranus. So Mercury, as I mentioned, is moving through the final legs of its retrograde in the last few degrees of Scorpio. And Scorpio has been Mercury has been under the influence of Scorpio, digging things up from the depths and dredging up old material in the retrograde. Scorpio is a sign about bringing out secrets and revealing things that have been hidden and looking at the really dark areas and the shadow areas of self and of life. And so this has been pretty heavy retrograde with Mercury here, the messenger of the gods, Mercury dredging up all of this messaging for us in Scorpio, and now is coming into this opposition with Uranus. And Uranus is just now moving back into Taurus, doing its last little moment. You're hearing me say that it's doing these last little things because a lot of these planets are at the final degrees of the signs. And when they're at the final degrees, they're closing up themes. They're closing up shop. They're doing putting the finishing touches on themes that they've been working on in that sign for a while. So Uranus has just dipped back into Taurus for its last leg of retrograde here. Uranus is the planet of electricity and of spark and of awakening and of surprise. And Taurus is the sign of slowing things down and getting grounded, and an earth sign that wants to keep things steady, solid, secure, unchanged. Uranus is a planet that wants to change things and cause action, cause sparks, cause lightning strikes and awakenings and sudden surprises and change. So this opposition on its own is like bringing up surprising things, revelations, secrets that are causing sparks of electricity, major earth-shattering, ground-breaking things happening this week with this opposition. Oppositions are definitely about making decisions too. So there is some decision that needs to be made during this culmination point. The moon is making the T-square with these two planets. We're going to definitely be feeling into this opposition this evening. And then come December 10th, going to be seeing the decision-making process. It's going to be very surprising. It's going to be involving things and themes that we've been working on already, since both of these planets, Mercury and Uranus, are in phases of their retrogrades. So with Uranus back in Taurus, I mean, we're talking about things that we already did last year or 10 months ago, 9 months ago. You know, this is like kind of bringing up old material, and this Mercury is coming back from the last month of doing this retrograde and is, you know, dredging all of this stuff up to be dealt with right now, to look at these shadow areas. So as we enter December 10th, the moon is going to move into Virgo. So the moon very quickly making that T-square in that opposition and then moving into a new sign. So we get into new energy, okay? Virgo moon is about planning and organizing and getting a to-do list going and cleansing and purging and detoxing, making sure that we're doing things efficiently. And Virgo is great at checking things off, you know, step 1, step 2, step 3, that's all the earth signs, but definitely Virgo, you know, gets a kick out of that process and enjoys getting things cleansed and purged and more efficient. So this is the feeling we wake up with on December 10th. And we get that opposition between Mercury and Uranus this day. It's the decision-making day. This is the day Neptune is stationing direct, and we are going to be feeling this planet so strongly all week, and really already have been. And so Neptune is a planet that has a lot of intuitive powers. It has a lot of sensitivity and connection with emotion, and it's very much about dreams and the dream state, your psychic abilities, being able to receive intuitive psychic blasts, and Neptune is also the planet of illusion and delusion and confusion. So a little bit of all of this happening this week. We're feeling inspired. We're feeling intuitive. We're feeling a little psychic, but we're also feeling confused, and like all the details are not available, and we're not sure what is a dream right now and what is a reality. That's Neptune definitely in the sky when it's sitting so still as it is, when it's stationing, is going to confuse and dilute and make things feel like they're hard to grasp, because Neptune rules all the things that are just kind of unseen, that are ethereal and are mysterious and are mythical in a way. Neptune is like, you can't quite grasp it, but it has a spirituality to it that believes and has faith and has the knowing, that spirituality is real and that there's a connection to something out there. Chatting about the planet of Neptune, really brings in the idea also about the fact that Neptune moves really slowly through a sign. And so Neptune is considered to be sort of a generational energy. So where Neptune sits in your chart is where Neptune sits in the chart of all the people that are around the same age of you, also creating sort of an intuitive zeitgeist for the generation, if you will. So Neptune coming in this station on the same day that we have the opportunity to make this decision, with Mercury opposing Uranus. And so be very, very careful of the decisions that we're making right now. There could be an element of confusion and delusion. And because we're still working with all of these retrograde cycles, there could still be something that we don't get just right, and we're going to have to come back to later. And this same day, we have Venus, the planet of love and money, also in a T-square with the nodes of fate. This is at 13 degrees of Sag, where Venus is making this T-square, and the nodes of fate, the nodes of destiny, are at 13 Pisces, north node, and 13 Virgo, south node. And when you get these T-squares, as we were talking with the moon T-squaring that opposition, it's like this moment where you're really feeling it. It's coming out. It's becoming apparent, and there is something that is going to maybe take place, a decision that's made, a corner that is turned, that is going to be a part of a permanent fix to the future. So with the nodes of destiny, we get a cosmic course correction here on Wednesday also. And Venus is also about relationships. So relationships are very much getting a shot of destiny, a shot of fate here. There is some major developments taking place in relationships with love and with money. And this week, Venus in this T-square is going to show us where these cosmic course corrections need to take place in these areas of our life. Of course, look at your own birth chart. Where are these points in your birth chart? Which houses are they in? What planets are they conjunct with or in squares with? And how is this affecting you personally? Getting an astrology reading from a professional astrologer can really, really help to really personalize this information for you based on your own birth chart. But you can get a free birth chart of your own and start picking through it. There are tons of online sources. You just type in your date of birth, where you were born on the planet, and the time, and you get a map of where the planets were at the moment of your birth, and that is your birth chart. And then you take that and you put it over the top of today's chart, the one I'm looking at here, and you can actually see, how this might affect you a little more personally. So moving on to, there's so much going on Wednesday, December 10th. That's a really, really big day to pay attention to. The things that take place on this day are going to have very much a permanent effect on the future, and things could still feel very, very confusing. Like the details are just not available, but you're being forced with a very surprising decision that's being made. Okay, so moving to December 11th. I'm kind of doing the report. Actually, I'm not kind of doing it differently. I am doing it differently. I'm looking at a different list of planetary aspects and just going off of it this way. So I'm having to organize my brain in a little different way. This is very very much this influence of this week and this surprise that we're into. Surprise! I forgot to take my notes for myself, and my brain has to do things totally differently right now, but it's very, very good for me. So with Mercury coming through and coming into these final degrees of Scorpio, we get a trine to Neptune with Mercury in the very final degrees of Scorpio. And with this Neptune stationing right now and Mercury in a trine, I feel like this could be a helpful moment where there's like some information that comes through, something very easily comes through that gives us the closure that we need on all of this action before Mercury moves back into Sagittarius and we start moving forward. So Mercury will move back into Sagittarius on the 11th, and we'll come into the first degrees of the sign of Sagittarius, which means that is going to sextile Pluto at 2 degrees, and we will see another highly transformative moment out of that also. So this week is like lots of action in terms of forward movement. Now that Mercury is out of that retrograde motion, it's moving forward. We are really seeing the pieces fall into place as we've kind of been waiting for. We've been waiting for a lot of this. With so much Scorpio energy, it's hard to get all of the details we need. And so watery, things just don't really settle. And so we're like waiting for these moments and getting this next blast of knowledge about this is more messaging coming from source and spirit, up from the depths, because Mercury is bringing more messages out from this retrograde now in Sagittarius and saying, boom, I have this brand new idea that I'm super excited about, because Mercury in Sag is like more adventurous and has a lot more energy to give and just wants to kind of light things on fire a little bit more and be expressive and come up with something and be wise about it, because Sagittarius relies on this wisdom and faith, in the good things that can come out of from the universe, and Sagittarius is all about the truth. I talk about Sag a lot, and Sag, you got a lot going on right at this exact moment with both Saturn and Neptune in their final pass at those last degrees of Pisces. These are the last squares that we have to go through, other than the North Node. And North Node's fine. North Node can stay in Pisces, and that shouldn't bother Sag too much in around Sag time next year, 2026. This should go so much smoother for Sages. Hang in there. This is like the last Sag season with all of this square to Pisces energy. And so we get energized, our minds get to start moving more, and we get another spark about how we can transform our situation with that sextile to Pluto. And that is actually on December 13th. The day before that, the moon moves into Libra on Friday the 12th, and Libra gives us this energy for the weekend that's much more social. It's Venus ruled, and we can look into having a little more fun in relationships. And Libra is all about looking at things just a little more diplomatically and seeing things more fairly, and everyone's perspectives get heard. And then moving to December 14th, it's another really busy day. Mars is in a square to Neptune this day, and Mars is at the final degrees of Sagittarius at 29 degrees, 22 minutes, squaring Neptune. And you just couldn't even make this up. I mean, Neptune is getting action this week while sitting so perfectly still in the sky. When you have a still Neptune, Neptune represents the oceans and the water. And so the waters are very, very still over there in Pisces as Neptune is stationing. And what happens when the waters become still? Well, the dirt sinks to the bottom, and the clarity can maybe come into play here. And I feel like this square between Mars and Sagittarius, again, Sagittarius, the sign of truth and of wisdom and of the good things, looking at things as though there is good things in life. It's very positive and uplifting and enthusiastic. And that there could be a moment here for us to take action and when the waters are settled a little bit here. Neptune sitting very still. We're going to be able to see through the waters for just this moment. And there's going to be some amount of clarity that causes action. Mars is the planet of action. It's our physical body. Now, do be careful that this action is not confused and diluted, right? Because Neptune is all about confusion. And right now, we just want to be really, really careful that we are seeing things clearly and taking things into consideration. That Libra moon will really help us to do that over the weekend. And then the moon moves into Scorpio very late in the evening on the 14th. And we get some more of that dark, watery energy where we go to the depths and we start looking at things very deeply and very emotionally and taking the shadows and taking charge of the shadows. Then on the 15th of December, Mars is moving into Capricorn out of Sagittarius, and that is going to be very grounding for the physical body. Capricorn is an ambitious type of energy that likes to take action and create structure. And Mars in this sign is going to be doing this for a couple of months. Mars takes a couple of months to move through each sign. So it'll take time for us to shift our physical energy from that fiery sign of Sagittarius to that grounded, more step-by-step energy of Capricorn. But Capricorn's a really, really good place for us to be to really come out of this tough time in Sagittarius with these squares and a lot of retrograde energy and a lot of things being dredged up from the past, because Capricorn and Aquarius coming after Scorpio and Sagittarius is a blessing, because Scorpio and Sag are like passionate, okay? And Capricorn and Aquarius are like a little more detached from all of that emotion. We can just kind of take some steps forward and think about things a little bit less emotionally and with a little less of that big exaggerated Sag energy. So that's my report for you for the week. I hope that it goes well for you. I really appreciate you being tuned in here to the Cosmic Community Astrology with your galactic ambassador, Stacy Dredd. And I wish you the very best, and I'll talk to you again soon. Take care. Peace. Thank you for listening to the Cosmic Community Podcast. More can be found at kpov.org/thecosmiccommunity.